And their job in any given year is mostly to A, make sure the buildings don't catch fire, B, to train 18,000 new conscripts, and C, to put on refresher training for another 18,000 reservists. And the result of those efforts is that during wartime, the army can very quickly call itself up to a wartime strength of 180,000 personnel, which means at that point a nation of 5.5 million people is fielding roughly as many troops as the British and German armies combined. That sort of military force lends itself to relatively simple, affordable equipment with a long storage shelf life. You want things that conscripts are going to be able to learn to use and then cover in their refresher training. There are a lot of very expensive, complicated systems out there that benefit from having personnel who can build up familiarity with their use over several years. We don't want that. Those are nerd weapons. What we want are comparatively simple systems. We want anti-tank guided missiles. We want artillery. We want landmine. We want small arms. That's not to say militaries like this can't have fancy equipment. Finland operates a significant tank fleet, for example, but you're likely to put greater overall emphasis on the cheap and the simple. We're probably going to have a small, permanent full-time air force, but in terms of reservists, we're going to want ground-based air defences instead. Given our primarily defensive mission, we might also adapt our hardware very carefully for our own terrain and environment. If our nation is covered in rivers, well then we're going to make our vehicles amphibious. If our terrain is incredibly mountainous, then we're going to design it with that in mind, and if our tactics are primarily defensive, well then you can design armoured vehicles, for example, with that defensive role in mind. There's a lot you can do to optimise a tank design if you think the primary engagement method is going to be engaging hull down from behind a hill rather than going onto the attack. The terrain itself can also become a key part of our total defensive strategy. And here the most cliched